Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to the LL3 podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Mango, South Florida, and today's date, Tuesday, February 23rd, 2020. Ooh, sorry about that one. Had a little burp, had some water. But, yeah, I'm not going to be any ranting here. It's going to be a quick article. Maybe 15 minutes, I would say, respectfully. And this one just came out today. And it's by UnezReview.com, UNZ, Unease Review. And originally from a gentleman named Philip Giraldi from the National Council of the Council of National Interest. That may be it. Let's find out here. Yeah, the Council for Natural Interest. That's his website. And the question here is about what about Israel? Here are some suggestions. Critics of U.S. policy with and about Israel, like myself, have been relatively successful in describing the considerable downside in the bilateral status quo. We have demonstrated that the lopsided relationship supports absolutely no U.S. interest, and that, on the contrary, considerable damage is done to the American people, to include involvement in armed conflict in the Middle East, which serves no purpose beyond protecting Israel. Israel benefits from billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars annually in a $3.8 billion lump sum for military aid, plus hundreds of millions of more in special procurements and projects that are together considered untouchable in Washington. Add to that the quasi-legal charitable tax-exempt contributions from wealthy American Jews and groups that fuel apartheid policies in Palestine and pay for the illegal settlements. Many of those same groups are themselves tax-exempt, and they exploit the status to actively lobby on behalf of the Jewish state, successfully shielding it from any consequences for its war crimes and human rights violations. They also avoid registration from under the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938, even though many of them collude directly with the Israeli government through its embassy in Washington and are directed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu government. In fact, no Israel lobby component among the 600 or so Jewish groups that have protecting Israel as part of their agenda has ever been required to register as a foreign agent. Under President Donald Trump, one Jewish billionaire, Sheldon Adelson, contribute as much as $300 million to GOP coffers, money which had with it a quid pro quo that Trump should do a series of favors for Israel, which he did. The Democrats have their own counterpart in an Israeli film producer, Haim Saban, who has said that he is one issue guy and his issue is Israel. Neither major party can be counted upon to resist Israeli pressure on foreign policy, even on domestic issues that might limit the aid that the Jewish state receives. The money coming from the Israel lobby has corrupted American government all the way down to the local level, and special preferences for Israeli businesses in states like Florida and Virginia have added even more to the cash flow that goes in only one direction. I have to agree with them on that because Governor Ron DeSantis, our Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, is pro-Israel. And I'm not knocking the man completely, but I'm very critical in this element of foreign influences. How dangerous it is. Now we'll proceed. It is a social, let me see here. It is a social state that has a foreign level standard of living to include free healthcare, university education, benefits that Americans do not possess. Add to that Israel's deplorable human rights record, which Washington is required to defend in international fora, as well as Israel's record of persistent and highly damaging spying against the United States. It all means that little more need to be said, apart from restating the fact that it is a very bad deal for the American people, and it has also brought with the collateral damage to include attacks on fundamental rights like freedom of speech, freedom of speech and assembly. As the politicians in both major parties are bribed or otherwise coerced into continuing to behave the way that they do. Excuse me here. Count on things getting even worse, with criminalizing of any criticism of Israel as an anti-Semitism currently making the rounds of pending legislation. All of that said, when I and others lay out the laundry list of Israel's crimes against America, some sympathizers inevitably respond, okay, so what are you doing? What are you going to do about it? So now I am going to address some of the things that can be done by ordinary Americans and by groups that are correctly appalled by Washington's wag the dog relationship with the Jewish state. First of all, demand from our elected officials that American law be enforced on Israel. There are several areas where that is relevant. First, as mentioned above, is the failure of the Justice and Treasury Departments to enforce registration of pro-Israel lobbying groups. Registration would force groups like the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, FDD, the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, or WINEP, and the Jewish Institute for National Security of America, or JINSA, JINSA, to open their books regarding the money they receive and spend, and could also require them to relieve details of their lobbying activities. Another area where the law is not being enforced is regarding Israel's nuclear arsenal, which was created by stealing both technology and enriched uranium from the U.S. The Sigmaton Amendment on Foreign Relations forbids giving aid to any country that is neither a nuclear proliferator or is in possession of undeclared nuclear weapons, demand that it be enforced fully now and end all aid to Israel. U.S. Israel-centric charities or foundations should also have their tax exemptions strictly enforced. Humanitarian aid is fine, but if they are funding the illegal West Bank settlements, which many of them are, they should have their exemptions revoked. And finally, Israelis caught spying or Americans who are assisting in the theft of U.S. classified or sensitive information should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, to include use of the Espionage Act. Currently, such individuals are almost always given a pass. If Joe Biden can continue the prosecution of legitimate journalist Julian Assange under the Espionage Act, he can certainly do the same vis-a-vis Israel spies. Second, call for the end of Citizens United, which enables the Zionist oligarchs to dictate U.S. policy in the Middle East through their PACs and direct political donations. Beyond that, you make your voice heard more generally. Sure, calling a run to a congressional office is most often a waste of time, but Capitol Hill staffers have told me many times that if a congressman gets multiple complaints about a certain policy or issue, he or she will begin to pay attention. That is not to say that they will give a damn about their actual constituents versus the powerful Israel lobby, but the background noise might make them just a bit more sensitive on the issue. Likewise, with the mainstream media and the entertainment industry, which are Jewish Israel dominated, when one reads an article or watches a documentary that is heavily slanted towards the Jewish state, make an online comment or write a letter to the editor or producer saying that the bias is evident. As in the case with Congress, if newspapers or television editors begin to see a lot of commentary hostile to their spin, they just might begin to be more cautious for fear of losing readers, viewers, or advertising dollars. And just a little bit of loosening of the Israeli grip in the media will meet that public will begin to appreciate that the news stories that have been promoted for so many years, nothing but a tissue of lies. Oh yeah. Third, support the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, as well as organizations that are actively critical of Israel. BDS is nonviolent and increasingly effective, particularly on college campuses. Always remember that Israel and his friends do not have a grip on Congress, the White House, and the media because they are wonderful, warm people that others find to be sympathetic. It is difficult even to imagine a scintillating conversation with a malignant toad like former casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, or with congressional slime balls like Senators Chuck Schumer and Ben Cardin. Israel's ability to corrupt and misdirect is all based on Jewish money. As well, a well-established process whereby Zionist oligarchs buy their way to power and access. So to restore the relationship to something more like the normal interaction between countries, the solution is to hit back where it really hurts. Boycott Israel and Israeli products or services, and do the same for the companies that are the sources of income for those American Jews who are the principal supporters of the Zionist project. If you want to visit Las Vegas, by all means go, but don't patronize the casinos and hotels now owned by Sheldon Adelson's Israeli wife, Miriam, which include the Venetian and Sands Resort. Democratic Party major donor Haim Saban, meanwhile, is a producer of Hollywood children's entertainment, including lucrative Power Rangers. You can stop your children from watching this violent programming and tell the network's advertisers why you're doing so. And then there are businessmen, including Bernard Marcus, who is a co-founder of Home Depot and a major supporter of Israel, and Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots. No one really has to spend $1,000 to go to a football game, particularly if the owner is a good friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. And if you need something for your home or seeking entertainment, choose to spend your dollars somewhere else. Readers can do the homework for the businesses and services that they normally patronize. If outspoken advocates for Israel own the company, take your dollars elsewhere. Also put direct pressure on the mostly high-tech U.S. companies that invest in Israel, which are particularly vulnerable because they are thereby sending American jobs overseas, particularly as a country they are sending them to steal the technology as likely as not. Make Israel's cash-rich supporters pay a price for promotion of an apartheid racist regime that is contemptuous of Americans, even as it robs us blind, in the process doing terrible damage to the United States. I am confident that readers will come up with other ideas regarding what might be done to counter Israel and all its works right here in the United States. If we lapse into apathy and think that nothing can be done to oppose the Israeli juggernaut, we will all lose. And to be sure, The Israelis and their friends in America and Europe have one huge weakness. It is their hubris. They think they are invulnerable because their money and political power, but they fail to understand that in history, the rich and powerful have inviolably gone too far and have finally received their comeuppance. Perhaps the gone too far moment has finally arrived. I gotta give props to Mr. Giraldi on this, because it is true. John Jay warned us on foreign dangers of foreign nations and influences from Federalist Papers 2 through 5. Also, George Washington honored his farewell address. And I'm not afraid to call out my representatives on this matter. And I did. Doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. You get them all. One time I did a meme with Governor Ron DeSantis saying, our new motto shall be, in Israel we trust. You can't say I'm being anti-Semitic. That's absurd. There's Jewish people right now who are being deprived on their rights and liberties in Israel by their government. Many Palestinians are Jewish. That doesn't make me anti-Semitic when you criticize their government. It's just the damn truth, folks. Even these subversive organizations I'm not crazy about, but they have merit on this. Always got to look at the big picture. Foreign influences have been dangerous for a very long time. And I encourage everyone to contact your local servants, your elected servants, and let them know, don't contaminate our space. You work for us, not them or any other foreign institution. If not, we'll be calling you out, even ridiculing you everywhere we go, without being egregious. And I always recommend folks, if they have a family, don't be derogatory, but use constructive criticism with decorum, and say it with a big smile on your face. They hate that more. And if you want to look at the Gazette or their laws, the Constitution, yeah, they are a Jewish state, according to the Israeli Gazette, Israel's Knesset. So it's all right there, self-explanatory, folks. Do your little homework, and you'll be surprised what you'll learn. And that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or issues you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence from the quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnote of this article on my Spreaker page. And if you want to contact me, you can hit me at LokiLuck number 03 at protonmail.com. Or you want to send donations, hit me at paypal.me or cash.app/LokiLuck number 3. They both work. So, you go through, it won't be any problems. All right? And if you want to donate to individuals like the Center for a National Center, sorry about that. If you want to send the organizations like UNZ Review or, hold on here. That is my mistake, by the way. I should have done that. Hold on, folks. Council for the National Interest.org. If you want to support them, that'd be awesome. So the footnotes are right there. You can look at that yourself. It's pretty good. It's a good organization. And that'll be all. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. and may your guardian spirits be with you.